As one year ends and a new one begins, many people find themselves reflecting on where they are and how far they've come. It's a natural feeling, I suppose, with us placing these demarcations every so often to section off huge chunks of time and say, well, now we're starting something new. Most folks will wonder if the one they just went through was any good, if it was time well spent, and if they can do anything to improve it. For myself, though, that feeling is often more poignant because the date of my birth also happens to fall at the end of the first week of the year. That's probably why, though I've not lived that long, the years do tend to weigh on me more than those I find myself surrounded by, and I sometimes try to behave much older than I am. Not in terms of maturity, but in the things I think and complain about. I've felt the grumpy old man persona becoming stronger and stronger as a part of my personality in the last few years, especially. But it also affects how I've lived my life. When I reach the end of the year, I don't feel particularly satisfied with how things have gone. I often consider big, sometimes drastic changes to how I go about things for the coming year. Perhaps that's why one year, when I realized it had been a decade since I started making videos for YouTube and had experienced a little success in that time, I rather childishly decided to give it one more go of really trying for a full year and uploading every week before giving up. That's probably also why a few years later, after that proved to not work and instead ended in the retirement of the online persona I had been using up until then, I've decided to make videos again. Not because I still want success on this platform, but because it has become such a familiar part of my life that its absence has been felt in the last few years. You see, I don't really feel like I know how to express certain thoughts without making them YouTube videos. Sure, I can write them out as massive social media threads, but who actually likes reading those? I can try and work them into my fiction writing, but who knows when any of that will be at a point when I'm ready to share it. I can bring them up on the podcast I co host, but it's meant to be more of a good time with the Nerd Boys show, and sometimes I want to talk about real stuff, and that makes me very upset. And even when it is something on topic, I don't always want a discussion. I want to just share my thoughts, make my points, and be done for a while. Not because I don't like discussion, but because it doesn't feel like a discussion. It's more like a little gremlin gnawing at my chest that I need to get the hell off of there. That's how I know this will be okay, that I'm not going back on the assertions I made a few years ago under another name. Well, that and the fact that I discussed this with my therapist a couple times. I'm not here for fame or money. I'm here because this is still one of the better places to put my bigger thoughts when I have them. True, it's not the only one. I could also post these to TikTok or as long text posts on sites like Tumblr and Blogspot, and I may very well still do that. But this is what I already know, and with all the talk of age in this video, I don't think I need to remind you what you can't teach an old dog. There's other things I've thought a lot about going into this year. Massively cutting back on my spending and collecting so I can make some major progress on getting my credit cards paid off, getting better at cooking and going out to parks on the weekends so I can be more healthy, and forcing my friends to answer the riddles 51. But doing this, something I resisted for a very long time by my standards, is probably the biggest one. I don't intend it to be anything spectacular though, it's just gonna be yapping, sometimes with a script and sometimes without one. But it'll always be on things I have been thinking fairly strongly about, and usually in this format, as I've never liked video editing and will probably never have the kind of money to hire someone to do editing for me full time. If you want to do the YouTube algorithm things or toss me a couple bucks on Ko-fi whenever you watch one of these, I sure would appreciate it, but it's not necessary. As I said, I'm not here for fame and fortune. I've seen what the first one can do to people, and while the second would be welcome, I've got a good day job that takes care of my basic needs and a little extra right now, so I'm not in a hurry to change my situation just yet. So, that's the long and the short of it. Let's see how this goes.